Viscount's Physis-based organs have considerable flexibility in the configuration of their controls. In this tutorial, I'll be showing you how to set up and manage the various pistons, some or all of which will be available depending on the model of organ you're using. Divisional pistons enable you to recall preset combinations of stops on a division by division basis, and are located under each manual if they're available on your instrument. Sometimes they're also duplicated on toe pistons. General pistons, on the other hand, recall preset combinations of stops and couplers for the entire organ, and they're useful for changing entire registrations during performance. On this organ, they're located at the top left, but the location of these may vary depending on the configuration of your instrument. You may also have the facility to assign them to swell toe pistons, or they may have their own toe pistons. As on pretty much every organ, combinations are stored by setting your registration, holding down the setter button and then pressing the registration piston in question. Standard organs have 16 banks of combination memories, that is 16 divisionals if present and 16 sets of generals. You select the bank you want to use with the memory bank plus or minus buttons, which are here on this organ. And the numerical display shows which bank is selected, and that's up on the top right hand side on this organ. Normally the same memory bank applies to both divisionals and generals, but on sophisticated custom instruments it may be possible to select them independently. It's possible to lock the combination memories so that no one else can change them. From the Utilities menu, we need to select Lock Organ, which is on the second page, and you can see that the top option here enables me to lock the combination banks. I've got the choice of locking either the first bank, or yes means locking all of them. So I'll lock just the first bank. If I press Enter, it asks me for a password, and by using the plus and minus keys and the field keys to move across, I can enter my password, and I'd then press Enter to save it, but in this case I'll press Exit. No one can then change the first level of combinations without knowing the password. The stop sequencer, not to be confused with the recording sequencer that I described in a previous tutorial, works in a very simple way on these organs. It simply steps through the generals from wherever you start. So if I select General 1 to begin with, then pressing Next here will move on to General 2, then General 3, and so on. On this organ there are 6 general pistons per bank. When I get to the end of one bank, pressing Next simply skips on to the first general of the next bank. Pressing Previous skips back to the previous general setting, and Previous again steps back to the previous general setting. Sometimes you'll also find the next and previous controls on convenient toe pistons. The tutti piston, which is up here on this organ, is a single general that brings on a version of full organ, which would normally be everything except the celestes and other undulating stops. You might, however, want your tutti to emit tierces or some other stops. Set up your tutti registration, therefore, and save it on the tutti piston in the same way as any other general. So I'll see what's on the tutti here. It's pretty much everything. I'd like to omit the great clarinet on this tutti, so I'm going to take that out and then press Set, and then the tutti piston, which programs it. Although only 16 banks of combinations are immediately available, it's possible to store sets of these so that you can bring them back later. Let's say you have a whole set of registrations configured for playing Franck pieces, and you've filled up the available set of 16 memory banks. You can save them by going to the File Management menu and selecting Save. Using the plus and minus buttons at the end, make sure you've got combination memories selected. It's actually the first one that comes up. And then give the file a name. In this case, we're going to call it FRA for Franck. FRA for Franck, and then press Enter to save it. You can then start setting new registrations for other types of music and saving them in another file. And you can bring back your Franck settings later by selecting Load, Enter, and you can see that our file Franck combinations is available in the internal memory. So we just press Enter to load that one up. These combination files also save other information, including the crescendo pedal and tutti settings. On most standard organs, you'll find one or more HR pistons. That's here, here, and so forth. HR stands for hand registered and brings back whatever hand registered combination was present before a specific divisional or general was selected. So let's say I hand register the great stop diapason. Then I hit General 3, which is something entirely different. Pressing HR will return to the hand registered stop diapason I had previously. The SWS piston, if present, and it's up here in this case, stands for swells to swell. In its most common configuration, it puts all the organ divisions under dynamic expression, controlled by the swell pedal. So instead of the swell pedal just changing the volume of the swell division, it acts as an overall volume control for the entire instrument. If I turn it on, you can see that the great volume now also changes when I move the swell pedal. And if I turn it off, the great is unaffected as I move the swell pedal. If you really want to make this complicated, you can go to the control panel and select SWS configuration from the setup menu, and it's down here on the second page. Now here you can see which expression pedal affects each division's volume when SWS is turned on. At present you can see that the swell pedal controls pedal, great and swell. However, with the plus and minus buttons, I can make, say, the great affected by the great stroke pedal expression pedal. That only works if the crescendo pedal is functioning as a great pedal expression pedal, as I showed you in tutorial number 10. If I now set this to free, it means that the great is not affected by any expression pedal in SWS mode. The AP piston switches on the auto pedal function. In its most common configuration, this enables you to have pedal stops sounding without playing the pedals. If I turn it on, and it's here on this organ, it takes the bottom note I play on the great and sounds it using the pedal stops currently selected. So you'll hear a fairly full pedal tone at the bottom of that. If I turn it off, on the other hand, you'll hear that we lack the full pedal tone at the bottom end. The other modes of auto pedal can be set in the Programmable Functions menu, which is selected from the Setup menu, and the auto pedal settings are somewhere down the bottom. Here we are. This is the one we've been using, which is pedal great mono, which means that the lowest note of the performance on the keyboard of the great is played on the pedals. If we go up to pedal keyboard mono, it essentially means that the lowest note of any keyboard is played on the pedal stops. And then there's a third function, pedal automatic piano, and this automatically selects suitable pedal stops depending on which manual you're currently playing. You can determine whether the SWS and AP piston states are saved with general combinations from the Programmable Functions menu. If I select yes for this, it means then if you have one of these pistons turned on when you set a general, it will be saved on that general level and will come back when you recall it. Similarly, going to the next programmable function, I can choose whether the cancel piston also cancels SWS and AP states. So if I turn it on, it means that when I press cancel, it will knock out SWS or AP if they're turned on. That's given you a brief introduction to the setting and management of various common pistons on Physis-based organs. As you'll have seen, it's possible to make the organ's controls behave in virtually any way you want, in order to fit your playing preferences.